Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone has enjoyed a cafecito, a coffee. But we ask that you make your way into the room, find your seats. Good morning and welcome to In Dialogue, a bipartisan Q&A discussion hosted by the United States Hispanic Business Council. Our program is going to begin momentarily, so get comfy, stay hydrated, drink some coffee, and we will get started here shortly. My name is Sabrina Lilu Gonzalez, and it is truly my privilege to be with you all this morning. Thank you for joining us. And feel free, I know there's some empty space up front. Let's come on, get close. We don't bite. We're a lovely bunch, so feel free to move on up. I have the pleasure of serving as Vice President and Chief of Staff for the USHBC. Before we do get started, I want to recognize a few guests that are near and dear to our hearts. And so to get us started, I want to thank our colleagues from FIU, including Cristina Castillo, Javi Marquez, of course, the wonderful FIU President, Jeanette Nunez. I also want to thank our hosts, Michelle Castro and Carlos Becerra, for generously offering this amazing space. As you can see, FIU has a wonderful campus, and we never fail to showcase that. If you can't tell, I myself am a proud FIU alumna, so I will brag on. We also will have our USHBC board members, Christina Antello, Claudia Mirza, Troy Rawlings, and Ms. Jane Garcia that are with us today. We thank you for making the trek out. We also have our dear friends, Shashrina Thomas and Paul Pereira. Thank you for joining us. The United States Hispanic Business Council is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to fostering collaboration across the aisle. We work with Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, because at the end of the day, it is truly our mission to support the people and the policies that help empower our American small businesses. That spirit of dialogue and collaboration is exactly what we're seeking to accomplish here today with our Q&A. To help us kick off the program, it is my great honor to introduce a leader who truly embodies that spirit. Florida International University's 7th president and proud FIU alumna, Jeanette Nunez. With more than, yes, give her a round of applause. With more than 15 years of public service, including her time in the Florida legislature and as Florida's lieutenant governor, President Nunez is a seasoned public servant whose career has been marked by many firsts. She was the first in her family to hold public office, the first Hispanic American woman to serve as lieutenant governor of Florida, and now the first female president of FIU. Please enjoy this short video before we welcome her to the stage.
Well, good morning. It's such an honor to be here and welcome you all to our home away from home, FIU in Washington, D.C., our university's hub for all of the great opportunities and activities that we have right here in our nation's capital. Sabrina, I want to thank you for that kind introduction. She, too, is a Panther, and so we're always thrilled to see our Panthers doing amazing work, especially as I get to come back home and work with them. And so many of you in the audience I've had the opportunity to engage with and interact with over the course of many years. So for today's gathering, again, just honored to be able to welcome you all here and exemplify the spirit of collaboration and engagement that FIU has become renowned for. Instrumental in ensuring that we advance our university's interests, but of course our nation's interests. And the opportunity for us to come together and bring all of you here today is a privilege. So at FIU, we are a top 50 public research university. We are proud that we are a preeminent university, #1 in the state of Florida for performance funding. We have a tremendous student body, some of them which are here, and we're honored that they would be here in this important event. FIU serves as a dynamic hub where ideas converge and leaders are created to thrive in a global economy. And I think that short video is emblematic of the impactful work that we do in so many different areas each and every day. Our commitment to excellence and innovation is unparalleled, and it's reflected not only in our academic offerings and our programs, but also as we continue to grow in stature as a top-tier research university. In fact, we are on track to double our research expenditures. Probably we will be in the $600 million range in short order, looking forward to becoming a top 30 university in the next 5 years. And I believe that's a testament to our commitment to working with industry, and I know many of you here are representing different areas and different industries, but making sure that our students not only get an excellent education, but also that we're preparing them for the workforce to be able to contribute to society, fostering that economic mobility, working with business chambers across the country. And so today I want to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guests, in particular, Javier Palomares, President and CEO of the United States Hispanic Business Council, who is a great friend of FIU. Javier, thank you for being here. I know that you have witnessed firsthand the energy and passion that we bring to the mission of ensuring that business and academia can come together. So thank you for your friendship and your support. We're grateful for your leadership and for your partnership, and of course for choosing FIU and DC to host this important conversation. And today we are honored to have two very important public servants with us today. Are they both here? Yes? Okay. Just making sure. We're honored to have two amazing public servants who have joined us today, Senators Ruben Gallego and Bernie Moreno. Senator Gallego of Arizona has demonstrated tremendous leadership in the areas of energy, Veterans Affairs, Homeland Security. We have also Senator Moreno of Ohio, a proud native of Florida. So he is a Floridian, born and raised in Fort Lauderdale in sunny South Florida. But he has become a tremendous voice, a strong voice on issues related to commerce, homeland security, areas where FIU is actively engaged in research and in partnerships. And I actually had the privilege of hosting Senator Moreno in FIU recently, and we talked about a number of issues important not only to his district, but also to FIU, in particular in the area of combating anti-Semitism. He has been a champion and a leader on that front. So again, FIU looks forward to playing an active role in this year's Summit of the Americas. So just breaking news, you'll you can say you heard it here first. We're working actively to ensure that FIU is represented, that FIU is a thought leader as we welcome the Summit of the Americas to the Western Hemisphere. I'm excited also to have with us a few national partners who are doing great work in our communities and for our nation, such as the Everglades Foundation. If there is ever a better example of bipartisan public-private relationships, state and federal success story, it is the story of Everglades restoration in Florida. And so I know those of you that perhaps are active in that space can appreciate the work that we've been doing, and FIU is a leader in that front. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize the many FIU interns that are joining us today. If you're an intern at FIU in DC this semester, please raise your hand. Okay, we have a few here. I had the opportunity to meet with many of them last evening. They are doing internships in Congress and having a great opportunity in Senator Scott's office, Congresswoman Wilson's office. And so when we bring our students here, we put them to work, which is why I'm glad that they're not all raising their hands, because they should be on the Hill right now. And we had 2 interns that we got to meet in Congressman Byron Donald's office as well. So just great opportunities for our students. And then we have actual students that are here for a leadership summit. If you could also raise your hand. Excellent. So they're just flying in, getting a taste of DC, but hopefully they too will be part of our internship program next semester and beyond. So we have roughly 25 fly-ins throughout the year, and we're able to bring our students, expose them to the amazing work that happens in the halls of Congress. And really for us, it is an important opportunity not only to expose our students to the important work that happens here, but also to expose the members of Congress, the heads of agencies, to an FIU student. And I think they come away, both of them come away very impressed. I want to give a special shout out to David Harvelitz, Assistant Secretary at DHS, overseeing cybersecurity and infrastructure and resilience. Thank you for being here, sir, and looking forward to working with you. And again, we are here to hear from 2 important leaders. I know Javier is eager to come up and introduce our fellow senators that are coming in to spend some time with us today. So with that, Javier, I will turn it over to you. Thank you again for being here at FIU in DC.
So how about President Nunez, huh? You know, FIU could stand for Florida International University, but it also stands for forward-thinking, innovative. So I'm honored to be here. I can't thank you enough for your hospitality. This is a wonderful setting. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you. And thank you for being with us. I am privileged to work at the United States Hispanic Business Council, the leading advocate for our nation's 4.5 million Hispanic-owned firms that collectively contribute over $850 billion to our American economy. And while we're proud to advocate on behalf of men and women who happen to be of Hispanic descent, we never forget that we're first and foremost American business. And every job we create, every product we manufacture, and every service we provide goes to benefit our American economy. And the only thing at the USHBC, the only thing we're prouder of than being Hispanic is being American. So our job is to tell the story of the American small business community. At the USHBC, we also know that our nation's commerce is critically important for the continued well-being of this country. But it relies on a system of laws, a very complex system, and a system that, while constantly changing, is also constant in its effort to provide structure, governance, and leadership for the most dynamic nation on this globe. That effort is led by the policymakers, those who have chosen to give their life to public service and have assumed the massive, massive responsibility of trying to give legitimacy and guidance to our great nation. These men and women, there's only 535 of them, are the members of the United States Congress. If you think about it, they represent less than 1/3 of 1% of our nation's total population. Yet they have the colossal accountability of somehow representing all of us. Today, we'll be hearing from two brand new and amazing members of that Congress. Now, these two men, despite the fact that they sit on opposite sides of the aisle, I know that their common sense and collaboration will offer, I think, a departure from the combative, disrespectful, and often unproductive dialogue that sadly we become very accustomed to. At a time of historic change and heightened division, our nation is truly at a transit point. We've never been here before as a country. And that's why we believe it's very important now more than ever that we engage with elected officials who are courageous enough to put people before politics. So first, Senator Ruben Gallego, a Democrat from Arizona and a Marine Corps combat veteran. Gallego has been referred as a rising star by many. He was born to immigrant parents from Colombia and Mexico, and he earned his way into Harvard University. If you think about it, there's a lot that a young man could do with a Harvard degree. But when Ruben graduated, he chose instead to serve our people. He served in the military. And after he got back from the military, once again, he chose to serve and to represent the people of Arizona. Since entering Congress in 2015 as a congressman then, Gallego has focused on issues like affordable health care, immigration reform, water security, and expanding economic opportunities in underserved areas. He served as a congressman for 10 years, and just last year, he was elected to the Senate, becoming the first Hispanic ever to serve as senator for that state in the 112-year history of Arizona. That is a first, and that deserves a round of applause. Now, not to be outdone, because these guys are a little competitive, you're about to see that. Next, there's Senator Bernie Moreno, a Republican from Ohio, who immigrated to the United States as a little boy. Moreno built a reputation as a business owner and community leader in Cleveland, where he supported local economic development and small businesses and created literally hundreds of jobs. He is a strong advocate for pro-business policies and reducing federal regulation and prioritizing small businesses and protecting American industry, proudly so. The senator likes to refer to himself as just another car guy from Cleveland, a car guy indeed. Moreno started with nothing. Eventually, through hard work, diligence, and hustle, he came to own 15 luxury car dealerships in 4 different states throughout the nation. He was also part owner of a blockchain company. But he sold all his businesses. He divested from all his commercial interests so he could run for the Senate and represent the people of Ohio. He too was elected just last year, becoming the first Hispanic senator in Ohio's 220-year history. So that deserves a round of applause. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Senator Gallego and Senator Moreno. All right, fellas, ready?
Love your painting. Post 41.
I think I'm live, am I? Welcome, Senator. Thank you for being here. Senator, thank you for arriving early. I got it done. I got it done right away, so get used to it, brother. No. Seriously, let's jump right into it. We're really pressed for time, and one of the senators has to leave right away. He just came from doing a committee vote, and he has to head out. But Um,
I was dropping off my daughter at daycare.
We both have the same committee.
Yeah. So first, tariffs. And Senator Moreno, this question is for you. So tariffs have been top of mind for some time now with both advocates and critics. In fairness, the EU deal has helped level the playing field for American businesses. It eliminated, as you know, the 10% tariff imposed on auto manufacturers, and it also provides a boost to our energy sector with a commitment from the European Union to purchase $750 billion of American energy. Now, we still lack the big deals with Canada, Mexico, and ultimately China. But with that said, Senator, my question is, what's your take on the tariff policy, and what is the path forward for our Congress and the American people?
Yeah, well, thank you, and thank you for hosting this. I appreciate it very, very much, the opportunity to speak to all of you. Look, on a tariff policy, it's a very straightforward situation. We gutted our industrial sector. We saw places like Moreno, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Youngstown that were once thriving manufacturing towns, and we shipped those jobs overseas. And that's a big part of the reason President Trump got elected. I'll also point out that President Trump's been talking about tariffs for 30, 40 years. So I find it interesting that people are surprised that he put in tariffs. He's actually, the surprise should be is that you have a politician that actually does what he says he's going to do, which I understand maybe in D.C. that's not normal. But look, the reality is the tariffs are having the exact effect. We've got great trade deals. We now pay 0 tariffs going to the EU, and the EU pays 15% tariffs coming into the U.S. We have deals with Japan, South Korea, China's pretty much, in my mind, resolved at 30%. I think Mexico and Canada, we have to get a whole handle on the fentanyl crisis and border security, and I think that's going to come around the corner pretty soon. We'll probably look at some sort of renegotiation of USMCA to raise the U.S. content. But right now we have over $10 trillion in new investment commitments from companies all over the world building in America. I can tell you in my office, every single day, I have CEOs tell me we're going to build more in America. I try to get as much of it as in Ohio as humanly possible, obviously. But that means good, high-paying jobs. Look, at the end of the day, the American dream isn't starting a tech company in your basement and becoming a billionaire. The essence of the American dream is being able to graduate from high school, get a job, be able to afford a home, afford a car, get married, raise kids in a safe community, and retire with dignity. And that happens with good, high-paying jobs where one parent, a mom or a dad, works to provide for that family, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Senator. On to affordability, and Senator Gallego, this question is for you. Now, the cost of living has been steadily rising, and many Americans are fearful of yet another significant increase in prices. For example, over the past 5 years, the average grocery bill has gone up about 30%, apartment rent has increased by over 35%, and home prices, depending on the market you're in, have increased between 60 and 80%. Clearly, it's difficult for the average American family. So my question to you, sir, is what policies do you think we need to prioritize in order to ensure that the American family can afford the basic needs?
Sure. Well, beginning with not having slap-shot tariff policies. So if you want to talk about housing, some of the main components of housing, building, trusses, steel, beams, come from other countries. And while we're having a housing crisis, we're also putting on tariffs that are also going to increase the costs of there. When it comes to food, people forget that a lot of our food mixture now actually comes from Mexico, because Mexico has a year-round climate that actually allows them to grow some of the vegetable mix and fruit mix that we can't actually find here. A good example would be tomatoes that come and are imported from Mexico. Because of the recent action of this presidency, the price of tomatoes are going to increase by 22% to favor, sorry guys, tomatoes from Florida and Georgia. And they're just not that good, to be honest, compared to, I know, compared to the stuff that's coming in from Mexico and from Arizona. But whether your opinion is whether they're better or not better, the fact is that there's now less tomatoes coming in and costs are going up. And tomatoes go into everything, right? In terms of just what else we have to do is Bernie and I are very lucky that we get to work on the Banking Finance Committee. And one of the things that we did in a bipartisan fashion, we got Chairman Scott and Elizabeth Warren together on 24-0 bill to deal with the housing crisis we have in this country.
Yes, by the way, I think if you think about that one for a little bit.
And we tackled it from all sides, right? We recognized, first of all, there was a regulatory burden that was causing increases in the cost of housing that was being pushed down onto the consumer. We understood the existential problem, the fact that the average first-time home buyer is not only 38 years old, which going back to Bernie's point, like, what is the rural American dream? Yeah, you're right. It's not being a tech bro or anything like that. It's being able to afford to buy a home. As a Mexicano, Colombiano, that is our obsession, right? It's like, get the casita, get the troquita, and start your business, right? That's it. Right, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we had a lot of government regulations that were kind of getting in that way, as well as just even some incentives that were just no longer aligned. One of the things that I authored was a simple bill that said, the government can loan you more money if you're going to start apartments. That actually had not changed in almost 20 years, even though, as I said, the prices of things have gone up. Overall, what we need to do as a government, as elected officials, is understand that the middle class is not the middle class anymore. The middle class now is a cultural term. It's not an actual economic term. Because if you look at what's happening in this country, a family of four making $80,000 is not really making it. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel like they actually are going to be able to save for the future and actually have some type of real middle class lifestyle that I think you and I were actually able to benefit from, and many of you here. And so on a line-by-line basis, we, and I say we, Democrats and Republicans, need to be figuring out how to be lowering costs, whether it's grocery costs, housing costs, insurance is going through the roof. I'm sure you guys see the property. I'll tell you guys about property insurance in Florida. Property insurance is going through the roof, and all that ends up making it harder and harder for a family to have anything left at the end of the month after they pay all their bills. That is not middle class. That is absolutely just barely making it by.
Thank you, Senator. A question about cryptocurrency, and this is for both of you, actually. In fact, you both sit on the Digital Assets Subcommittee, and Senator Gallego, you were critical and in your role in the negotiations for the Genius Act, which Senator Moreno, you immediately co-sponsored. Now, advocates of cryptocurrency would say that it is a boon for the American economy, while critics are skeptical of its potential instability and the lack of regulation. So given the promise of this new technology, what do you see as the future of crypto, and how will consumers be protected? And I'll begin with you, Senator Moreno.
Yeah, I think there's an enormous bipartisan consensus on digital assets in D.C., actually. In the Genius Act, we saw that pass with pretty good support from Democrats and Republicans. The more important bill is really the one we're doing now, the market structure bill. It passed with 100 Democrats in the House. We've got a great bill in the Senate to make it even better. I think the divide more is not so much at all Democrat versus Republican. It's more generational. I think it's, do people understand what this means versus not understand what it means? It's pretty straightforward. It's the digitization, the modernization of the American financial system. And that is inevitable. It's going to happen. We either are going to lead here in America or we're going to fall behind. The good news now is we're leading in that area. In fact, I was in Northern Europe last week, and the EU is now falling behind where we were, where they were probably way ahead of us. So it's really good news. I think we're going to see a lot of positive movements. As you said, Senator Gallego did a great job moving the Genius Act, which I was surprised he named it after President Trump, but it's worked out pretty well.
Here we go. Here we go. Senator Gallego.
I like being ironic. Sorry, if you looked at my phone, that's my family ring. I wasn't trying to be rude because my daughter's having a tough day at daycare, so I'm getting the notices. So, one of the things that I saw with the Genius Act, and in general why I had curiosity into digital currency, digital assets, actually comes from just talking to Latino men and Black men in my district. I largely represented a working class Latino and Black area of Phoenix. And what you saw, and I think it's not a coincidence that it probably aligns at the same time with what was happening with housing costs, was that a lot of Black men and Latino men were investing in Bitcoin and other types of currencies. And it really piqued my curiosity, even to the point like I actually started seeing Bitcoin ATMs. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those. Those are crazy. But getting to Congress and into the Senate, seeing an opportunity to actually bring, some real framework to this to, number one, protect them. Because you can have, fly-by-night operations that are designed to basically, pump and dump, different types of coins. It's not endemic just to that economy, it happens in almost everything, right? Any type of business transaction, there are going to be scammers, right? You see scammers in the property world. I'm sure you saw scammers in the car world, right? So there's going to be scammers when it comes to digital currency. So government being able to set down the framework, and the transparency that people need to, number one, feel more comfortable investing. Number two, to continue to be able to grow that economy here and not push it out to other parts of the country. And to have the consumer protections to have clawbacks, because as the digital currency economy was actually growing, it was getting more and more integrated into our regular banking system. But we hadn't worked out what happens if, for example, a coin goes under. Who gets paid? Is it a depositor? Does the FDIC insure? All these kind of things that we really needed to work out. There was a very strong lobby, I would say, from the left side of my party, that basically said, do not engage, do not compromise, do not do anything. And I just don't think that is something that is realistic when we know that this economy is growing. It's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to be very popular. And either we set the rules of the road, or it's going to be set by Europe, or it's going to be set in Hong Kong or in Singapore, and we're going to lose the potential economic growth that comes from that type of economy. So myself and Senator Warner for Virginia really took it upon ourselves to wrangle in the Democrats and actually get together a really, really good product. And now we're going to try to do the same with market structure. And I think if we have the same attitude that we had last time, if the Republicans had the same attitude last time, that we want an end product that is good and that is designed to bring trust to the system, I think we will have a very good market structure bill. And then we will own at least the next century when it comes to digital assets.
And I got to say, I got to commend you for your role in bringing Democrats to the table on that one, because, as you said, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's really a matter of how involved we want to be in the regulation and the construct that's being built. So thank you for that. I want to talk to you both about something a bit in the weeds, but important to the small business community and to manufacturing in our nation, and that's duty drawback. So duty drawback basically is a refund on duties and taxes or fees that are applied to imported materials or products that are later exported to other countries. And here are a couple of stats that illustrate how important duty drawback is just in your respective states. In Arizona, $33 billion of potentially impacted exports from companies like Honeywell, Intel, General Dynamics, and others. In Ohio, it's almost double that, with $58 billion of exports from major employers like General Electric, Honda, and Procter & Gamble. This is clearly a big issue for American manufacturers. So my question to both of you is, amidst the ongoing tariffs and the new trade talks, do you think duty drawback should be protected? And how would we go about doing that? And I'll begin with you, Senator Gallego.
Yeah, and so to kind of give you an idea what this is about, Arizona is not just a border state. We're richer because of border trade. And what you will see along the Arizona-Mexico borders, you'll see trains going back and forth. So, for example, a piece of a wing will be made in Mexicali. They'll throw it onto the track, and it'll get over to Yuma. It'll get refurbished there by skilled laborers and then sent back to Mexicali to get finished, and then coming back. The way that our trade policy is being affected, and tariff policy is being affected, is that every time that crosses, it's getting taxed. And at some point, the company will then ask for a refund. My issue with this is that, especially when it comes to our border states, and when it comes to our borders, so Mexico and Canada, the reason we have things such as USMCA is to avoid this kind of hectic, burdensome regulatory nature where you have to keep track and keep on asking for refunds. The way that we also can have more effective ways to actually deal with this is by having established free trade zones. Free trade zones are not just found along the border, they're actually found fairly inland. I think you have some in Ohio, where you could directly import your goods into these free trade zones. And let's just take Dayton, Ohio, for example. I'm sure they have a free trade zone there, and you can manufacture everything, put it together, and at the end of the day, not deal with this type of, I would say, just kind of crazy system where you have to be applying for refunds back and forth. I mean, no consumer would want to do that. I'm sure no manufacturer wants to do that. I think again, steady. If we're going to have tariffs, and I think there's some areas that we need to have them, steady tariffs that are based on true negotiations and agreements really matters. When we have kind of the whiplash of tariff policy that are somewhat based on emotions, I think that's where you're going to have some issues, and having to do these kind of end arounds to kind of go around emotional issuances of tariff policy is probably not the best time, best interest. Yeah.
Senator Moreno.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I said earlier, these deals are pretty much all set now. We got, like I said, deal with the EU, which is historic, huge agreement there. South Korea, Japan, the UK, China, like I said, in my mind, that's resolved. Mexico and Canada will get there. Again, we need to make certain that they step up and do what they need to do. I can tell you Mexico has done that. I was also in Mexico about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They've done a lot to help us secure our border, which is very appreciated, but there's more to be done. But ultimately, you have a very, very strong administration in Secretary Bessent, Jameson Greer, and as a USTR, and Howard Lutnick in Commerce. They have my full confidence and support to know these issues. They know them very deeply and very well. And I think at the end of this short process, by the way, because this is 7-8 months in, to renegotiate the entire world of trading relationships, an enormous task, and they're doing a great job making that happen.
Thank you both. Let's talk a little bit about energy, and this question again is for both of you. Now, I have often said that the rising energy prices are like an invisible tax on almost every aspect of our economy. For a bit of context, most Americans don't know that only 45% of the oil that we refine actually goes into our automobile in terms of gasoline. The other 55% goes into everyday products like asphalt, fertilizer, plastic, pharmaceuticals, toothpaste, dish soap, and even cosmetics. So at the same time, our nation has to grapple with how we get to a cleaner energy environment. So how do we balance these two? And so my question to both of you is, as our nation continues to grapple with the balance of traditional and renewable sources of energy, how can we ensure affordable prices while maintaining our global competitiveness and energy independence? And I'll begin with you, Senator Moreno.
Well, I mean, that's what we're doing. I mean, you saw in the One Big Beautiful Bill massive improvement in unleashing American energy dominance. I mean, we're by far the largest oil producer on earth. In Ohio, selfishly, we have 1,000 years of natural gas. What the prior administration was doing was completely crimping American energy. We've now completely unleashed it. We got rid of the ridiculous manic move towards electric vehicles, which we can have a whole separate conversation about that, but tell you, that is not more green in any respect whatsoever. But more importantly, we don't weigh in. People can buy whatever car they want. If you think that an electric car is the solution to the world's problems, buy an electric car. We're just not going to pay you $7,500 to do it, especially what the Inflation Reduction Act had done, which is it gave that money to multimillionaires who leased electric vehicles, which is next level insanity. I don't think a person leasing an electric Rolls Royce should get a check for $7,500 from the federal government. That's insane. So those things are done. Look, the reality is what we can agree on, I think we'll find agreement between the two of us, is that the most green form of energy is nuclear, and we're going to make certain that we now dominate in the nuclear area because that is something that is out there. But what happened, for example, last year is that 94% of our new generation was wind and solar. And while I'm not going to weigh in because we need to have that debate here, that is the most unreliable, most expensive form of energy. So now you have a problem where you have to get back to you have abundant, affordable energy. And I think we're working on that in a big way in the administration.
Senator Gallego.
Yeah, I think this administration has just been absolutely train wreck when it comes to energy because you're not really understanding, or this administration is not understanding, what's happening with energy. We are not going to be able to keep up with the energy demand of this country because of AI growth. It's just very plain and simple. So we need to have a very agnostic position when it comes to energy, which means all forms of energy as fast as possible on the grid right away, including with battery storage where we can. So what does that mean? In places like Ohio, when they do have a natural capability when it comes to carbon form energy, for them it's natural gas, we should be using natural gas. We should use natural gas wherever we can. Wherever we can deploy quickly renewable energy, we should do it. The fact that this administration just, for example, stopped a windmill farm off the coast of Rhode Island that was 80% of the way done, it would have actually powered 250,000 homes in Rhode Island. Now, wind energy does not work in Arizona because our peak time for those that are Arizonans is usually from 3 to 8 p.m. when we're powering our air conditioning. But wind energy works in Rhode Island, where they don't need to actually be cooling their homes as much. If anything, got to go the opposite way. Solar is another good example. Some of the biggest producers of solar aren't in blue states; it's actually in red states. Texas is actually putting more kilowatt hours of solar panels on right now. Why is red state Texas putting on solar panels of a place that's actually a huge carbon producer? Because they know that it is, in the long run, a good source of energy that is sustainable and that is absolutely cheaper to deploy. We are losing the worldwide battle when it comes to energy. The country that actually has strong energy production, not just exports, which I do think the last administration made a mistake on, but energy production internally is going to lead the economy of the new world. And if you look at what has happened historically, at the turn of the 18th century, England was able to dominate the Industrial Revolution because they were able to create, mill-powered factories. The United States was able to essentially take the 19th to 20th century because of coal and oil. And now what's going to happen the next, this century is the people that could actually have the most energy, abundant energy, reliable energy, cheap energy is going to end up leading the world economy. And yes, that does involve a lot of nuclear, which I think, as much as I've seen the wants on Democrats and Republicans, there hasn't been really a real push and effort for us to actually help move nuclear fast into the markets, because that is the real game changer if we could really do that.
Thank you, Senator. And continuing, we want to talk about healthcare, energy, things of this nature, but we want to delve into specific issues to give a little bit more context here. So continuing along that line, a discussion about diabetes and kidney disease. As you both know, diabetes is rampant in America's communities of color. If you are Hispanic, you're 400% more likely to have diabetes. If you're African American, almost 800% more likely to have diabetes. And we know that diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure. So right now, there are some 37 million Americans who are suffering from chronic kidney disease, which leads to kidney failure. But recent Medicare policy changes have moved life-saving medicines into something called the end-stage renal disease, or the ESRD payment bundle. That bundling has resulted in limited coverage and access, ultimately literally putting millions of American lives at risk. So I know both of you have a sharp eye on healthcare. You look at it from different perspectives. You try to collaborate as often as you can. But top of mind is the healthcare and the well-being of the American people. So my question would be, how would you suggest that we solve this problem to ensure patients gain access to life-saving medicine? And I'll begin with you, Bernie.
Yeah, the American healthcare system, obviously nobody disputes, is a mess. The costs are completely out of control, and there's a lot of areas that need to be fixed. We're going to start addressing that. We obviously couldn't get that done in the One Big Beautiful Bill because it was never intended to be a healthcare bill. So we have to fix a lot of the problems in our healthcare system. What does that mean? Look, it's pretty obvious. You look at the ecosystem, and there's players that are making obscene amounts of money, and there's some players that are getting crushed. So we have to take a whole holistic view of the healthcare system. I was on the board of both the Cleveland Clinic and Metro Health in Cleveland. I know this issue very well. We probably waste half the money in our healthcare system today is wasted through a combination of regulation, profit-taking by certain groups, government-dictated monopolies. There's a lot of problems in healthcare that we have to take a look at. And I'll tell you this, it will not be fixed unless it's bipartisan, because there's just no way to get it done with its one party. It just will not happen. But if we don't address it, two things are going to happen. Americans will suffer, and the country will go bankrupt. So we have to address it. Pharmaceutical pricing, I mean, you go through the whole ecosystem, it is an absolute and utter mess. I'm, for one, willing to tackle it. We just need willing partners on the other side to say, hey, we're going to do this in the spirit of bipartisanship and take our jerseys off and say, let's solve this problem for the American people.
Fantastic. Senator Gallego.
Yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with kind of dialysis centers, a lot of it has to, we have to ensure that, number one, they are functional, that they are profitable, or else you're going to end up having a scarcity issue where they're going to end up placing dialysis centers only where it's closer to the client and ends up, having people driving miles and miles away. So, we usually, when dealing with the type of situation you're talking about, we work with CMS to see if there's a way for us to make sure that there's equitable payment for service, because we don't want dialysis centers going under, because the first places they'll cut are going to be poor Latino areas, poor Black areas, Native American areas. Overall, I think the thing that I dislike about our healthcare system is that we treat, and we're very good about treating things when it's already bad. We don't actually put the effort in on the front side of things to stop people from getting really sick. What does that mean? Well, by the time someone gets diabetes, it's already too late, right? We're going to do the best we can to stabilize, you for the rest of your life, but you're going to have diabetes for the rest of your life unless there's some breakthrough that comes through, and that's a whole other Kennedy issue, but we won't get into that today. But we don't actually focus on how to stop diabetes, right? So some of it is, health. Like, are you exercising more? Are you eating well enough? The population that's likely to get diabetes is actually pretty predictable. If someone in your family has diabetes, you probably are going to get diabetes too. It's not just genetic; it's also just because the things that cause you to lead you to get diabetes probably have not changed. The nurture versus the nature section, and then there's the opportunity for us, I think, to think outside the box. I think a lot of times we think of diseases as a form of like virtual punishment. And instead of understanding that this is a big problem that we need to fix because it will end up breaking Medicare and Medicaid and even private insurers, we need to stop thinking about that. And so I'm a big supporter, and I think there's a couple of Republicans who have joined me in trying to make GPL1s more prevalent and cheaper, and trying to get communities that are extremely exposed to likely be have become diabetic or cardiac disease, and getting them early on, your Ozempics, your Zepbounds, will end up saving us a lot of money, especially if we could negotiate the price of these GPL1s down to the point where, we can give it out to these very vulnerable populations. But the amount of money we're going to spend taking care of somebody that gets diabetes at the age of 30 and probably has a lifespan to the mid-70s is astronomical compared to what we could do if we actually help them manage their weight through some of these breakthrough technologies pharmaceuticals. The problem you have is that we go into the American public and say we're going to give these poor people, and that's largely what we're talking about, of color, free to low-cost Ozempic, you will see people lose their minds, right? But in the long run, it will end up saving the taxpayer billions of dollars, potentially trillions of dollars. And so we have to get over this stigma of somehow, people that have diabetes do not deserve, or potentially have diabetes, do not deserve preventative medicines that could end up saving their lives and saving all of us a lot of money.
And I'll close off on the topic, but the USHBC has been very active on something called the Kidney Patient Act, because we recognize that we can't boil the ocean. We got to take one issue at a time, and this is one that we're focused on. And I'd like a commitment from both of you that my team can come talk to your teams about how we can fix this particular issue to make sure we pull it out of the bundle. Do I have the commitment?
You have a wide open door to my office all the time, as you know. Here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Listen, I want to move on to something that I thought was really leadership, but literally on a global basis. And this is the fact that, gentlemen, you both recently took part in a trip to Colombia. You both stated that while U.S.-Colombia relations have historically been defined by security cooperation and counter narcotics efforts, The relationship, however, should evolve in both of you, and I'm speaking for both of you, which I shouldn't. But my understanding is that, if I can speak for you, is that the relationship should evolve, and that we should expand into the realms of trade and investment, and build a holistic relationship with all Latin American countries, potentially beginning with Colombia. So my question to both of you is, how can we assure that we increase trade and investment with Latin American countries like Colombia and Mexico, which are viable partners in trade, investment, and national security, particularly as we're trying to wean ourselves from the dependence that we have on China? And I'll begin with you, Senator Gallego, about your trip to Colombia.
Well, first of all, it's really cool, and it's a story of Colombia, a story about the United States. Just because, we are the first Colombianos ever elected to the U.S. Senate, right? And I think, Bernie, they said you're leaving. Do you want to actually cut this?
What we don't want to do is do this wrong and be the last Colombians.
That's right, exactly. I'm doing my best.
That's a point well made, Bernie.
Yeah. It's a good message both to the America, like, this is a great American story, right? Two, kids that didn't grow up with the best situations end up being, U.S. senators. And it's a good story to Colombians that, like, hey, you have willing friends over here. Like, don't let kind of the leftist government and leftists in general try to deteriorate this relationship. And to give credit to Bernie and us, we went in there eyes wide open, potentially dealing with a very hostile president in Colombia, and I think we actually came out with some really good understanding and some good wins for the United States. And I think it really could only have been done by two Colombiano Americanos going down there and talking. The biggest mistake that this country did was we never pivoted north to south when it came to our economic orientation. We should have had one of the most integrated economies from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego. And if we had done that, we probably would be even richer than we are now, and I think we'd have more security than we have right now. Our east to west orientation is only making us, in my opinion, poor, right? We have been seeing our jobs being shipped to China and to Asia, and what it only has done is actually increased a lot of instability in Latin America that has pushed those populations up here looking for stability. But we don't have to do that. We don't have to have the next century be that way. If you look at what happened in the post-World War II economy of Europe, a direct investment and a focus with the Marshall Plan turned within, you think about it, from 1945 to where we are now, the European Union becoming one of the most strongest economic sectors in the world, second only to China after us, right? If we can do something of that similar nature with Latin America, or just in general the Western Hemisphere, you would see so many problems go away. You would see more security for all of us. You certainly would see less of this kind of mass migration of refugees happening, and we would all be richer. And I think that how does that work? We have to work with the private sector to start looking at the Calis, the Barranquillas of the world instead of the Chengdus and the Tijuans, right? We have to talk to them about what you can do in Panama instead of Singapore, or the fact that you have some of the most educated populations just south of the border in Mexico, and they're within reach within less than a 2-hour flight, or sometimes even a drive. The situation you have is that you have so many New York-based companies that honestly, they're just lazy. And like, well, I have one factory that's already there, so I'm just going to put the next factory there in Asia, instead of trying to restart the relationship and start to try something new in these countries. So some of it has to be those countries themselves making themselves attractive. Some of it has to be us actually pushing them. If you're not going to be in the United States, we want you to be nearshore because we don't trust that relationship, right? What we saw during COVID was one of the scariest things. Bernie wasn't in yet, but I was actually the chairman of a group called the Intel Special Operations on the Armed Services Committee. Some of the intelligence that I was getting, this classified intelligence I was getting, was frightening about how close we were to some very severe points in emergency situations because of our reliance on trade from Asia. The reason you see this urgency that came from the CHIPS Act, that was all because of what we learned from COVID and how close we were to really funding ourselves into a Great Depression because of a reliance on chips coming from Asia. The fact that we are not continuing to learn from that and trying to nearshore everything possible, I think is a huge mistake on our part. And again, makes the countries all richer, makes us all more secure, and certainly would make us, have a willing partners that we don't actually have to worry about them siding with the Venezuelas of the world, the Chinas of the world, the Irans of the world, the Russias of the world.
Senator Moreno.
So there's a tradition in the Senate that says that every point has been made, but it hasn't been made by everybody. And that's what leads to long discussions. So I would just say he said it very well, and I agree.
And I know Senator Moreno.
We have to go to a banking hearing, otherwise Chairman Scott will put us in double secret probation. So it starts at 10 o'clock. We have 5 important nominees. But thank you so much for hosting us. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, gentlemen. Que te vas a quedar, ¿verdad? Okay. Bernie. Thank you, my friend. God bless.
We'll see you over there.
And you're going to stay back.
I'm in the same committee. So
Otros 4 minutos.
Yeah, couple minutes.
Mic or no mic, Sabrina? On the goose? Tell me when. We'll do 2 reads. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us for this important discussion. I believe that what we witness here today is an America that more closely resembles what our forefathers created. A union where disagreement is encouraged, but disagreement with logic, compassion, and compromise. That is the American way. It's no secret that our nation is going through historic challenges. Controversial policy, dramatic regulatory change, and economic uncertainty are leaving all of us wondering what the best way forward truly is. Some believe that America is broken, but I disagree. In fact, I believe that our best days still lie ahead, but only if we have the courage and the compassion to collaborate. And I'm hopeful that after today's discussion, we have all seen that collaboration is still possible, and that your faith in our country, our elected officials, and most importantly, our shared future has been strengthened. At the USHBC, we know that the most effective solutions lie in bipartisan dialogue. And I commend you, Senators Gallego and Moreno, for providing a fine example of that dialogue. You both illustrated that the problems of today, and perhaps more importantly, the problems of tomorrow, can be solved, but only if we have the will to act. It is said that the purpose of life is to live a life of purpose. And gentlemen, you are both certainly living lives of purpose. Today, we've seen 2 men with different ideologies, different political perspectives, and different walks of life. But those 2 men can still reach across the aisle, recognize common ground, and engage their differences with civility and respect. After all, it's our differences and how we value those differences that make us distinctly American. So our thanks to all of you for being part of an ongoing commitment to a stronger, more prosperous, and more united America. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please stand and help me thank the gentleman from Arizona, Senator Ruben Gallego, and the gentleman from Ohio, Senator Bernie Moreno. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a great day.